So I want to give you a quick overview of using the cheat sheet of how it's designed. By the way, this software is called Primo Practice. I'll put a link here on the video. It's software that I developed that I think works really well for billing and documenting your patients quickly and efficiently. So the thing I've done here is I've selected some choices from the cheat sheet that you can actually access just by clicking on this button, and then you can search it. So if I wanted to add a disc issue, I search that, it brings up all the discs. You can see that I've selected cervical disc disorder C6-7 with radiculopathy, and here it is. If I wanted degeneration, there's my choices. You can see I've selected cervical disc degeneration C5-6, which carries 30 visits on the Medicare list. And if we look at that, I can slide that up here, and you'll see here that's a green code, cervical disc degeneration C5-C6. That's a 30 visit code. Medicare approves that one for 30 visits. So that's a way of choosing your diagnosis code. So once you've done that, and you've got your diagnosis code selected, they're going to appear on your patient screen as to their complaint here, what you're treating them for. In this case, it's bilateral dull tight aching pain in his neck and upper back extending into right shoulder. There's the codes, and I always try to include a shoulder code if it's appropriate. Most people, like this guy, is going to have pain into his right shoulder, so make sure you include a pain in the shoulder area so that you can add a diagnosis code to an adjustment to the shoulder region. So now let's go back and we'll open this this case to do a note. So we'll search him, and there's our patient. So we'll open that up, and this would already be filled in as to his complaints from the kiosk. We'll just say in this case that he's better, and objectively we'll also say that he's doing a little better. If we want to put some coding in there, we'll say there was pain to palpation in these regions, that there was decreased motion in the cervical and right shoulder, and that we noted that cervical compression on the right was positive and distraction was right. So we'll hit assessment, we'll add his diagnosis list, and now we're going to put in a plan. So the way we do that is we go to plan. We're not going to use the old plan, we're creating a new one, and we're going to do some spinal decompression on the cervical spine. The codes we'll use for that are these two. Then we'll come over here and we'll say we're going to do an adjustment on the right shoulder, and we'll do pain in the shoulder and spasm for that one. We'll do therapeutic stretching, neck and right shoulder. Select the diagnosis codes, and we'll also do unattended electrical stim on the neck. Alright, so now we'll see the patient again on Thursday. I'll put my signature on there, and this is what we're going to get. So here's our note and our diagnosis list, and then the diagnosis list is now the procedure code, CPT code, is matched to the diagnosis codes corresponding to that particular problem for each one of those. This is ready to send to billing, and when the patient comes in again, this plan will be remembered, and we can simply just add that as same as previous. So by choosing those particular codes for your patient based on the highest specificity off of the list and trying to include them that you cover the things that you're going to be billing for, you're going to find your reimbursements go up significantly. Just want to go over a couple of the important notes about how this cheat sheet works. So first of all, across the top, just like we learned with light, Roy G. Biv, red is approved by Medicare for 12 visits. Orange coding is 18 visits, yellow 24, and green 30. So at the top here we have our Medicare segmental and somatic dysfunction. So if you're billing Medicare or coding for Medicare, these have to be in position 1 of your pointer list or your diagnosis list. The next, position 2, needs to support this diagnosis. So if you've chosen a cervical subluxation or somatic dysfunction 9901, then your second code should support that diagnosis. So if you can find one that supports it with a green code, like for example, you could say, let's say there was a cervical disc displacement at C6-7, or there was disc degeneration at C6-7. So using this code as your supporting code would approve Medicare visits for 30 visits. Now it's also easy to support third-party payers for 30 visits, but you don't have to use this as a position 1 code. The only time personally that I use segmental dysfunction codes or subluxation codes is for Medicare. If it isn't a Medicare case, I do not use subluxation codes. It just kind of it brings attention that you are chiropractic, and that ends up causing a lot more question as that, because they don't. The only time they see that in position 1, third-party payers, the people that are keying this stuff in is with chiropractic. So if it's not there, they don't. I just have great luck doing it that way. So my first position 1 code for that very same patient that it was not Medicare would be just cervical disc degeneration. Now if we flip to the second page, now you're starting to see, just as we went across the top, so this yellow, we've coded them in order. So the first and under cervical on your list is going to be the green codes that are for 30 visits. So you're going to see these in descending order. What I mean by that, so the first code you're going to see are the ones for 30 visits and under cervical. The next ones, the next set of codes, these are your yellow codes, and they are 24 visits. And then you're going to see orange, and they are 18. And then the last in your cervical list will be red, and they are 12 visits for Roy, the first letter. So these codes would be the last you would want to use. All right, so however, it is good to use a muscle spasm code if you're wanting to use electrical stimulation, since muscle spasm is one of the things that's good for. So there's your cervical codes. If it's just a cervical complaint, those would be the ones that you would pick. It's good if you can pick up other spondylosis, cervical thoracic, or codes, radiculopathy, C7, T1, cervical thoracic region, with disc loss. Those codes, that's 2 levels. So if you pick cervical thoracic 2 levels if it matches the patient's complaints, and then you also are able to scroll down and look at lumbar codes, and you pick up a radiculopathy lumbosacral region. Now you have 4 regions that you can adjust and support, as long as your exam findings also support that. So and you'll see that this works the same way. The lumbar codes go down in the exact same order: the 30 visits, the 24 visits, the 18 visits, and then the 12 visits. So you want to avoid, the further down the list you go on this, it's not in any alphabetic order. It's in order of approved visits according to Medicare. And like I said, I code all of my cases using those type of codes, so that I know that I can support. If a third-party payer says we're only going to give you 18 visits for, let's say it's a lumbago with sciatica left side, so third party comes back and says we're only going to give you, United Healthcare says we're only going to give you 12 visits approved on that, your patient's code, and you go, whoa, wait a minute, Medicare federal program says that code is worth 30 visits. So it gives you a fighting chance countering those type of claims. But if you support these codes with your exam findings, you won't have any trouble. So if you have any other questions, please get in touch with me. I hope this sheet helps you develop a more defensible and stronger approach to picking your diagnosis codes. Thanks, and have a great day.